Well, it's 10 o'clock, so we'll call the Parks Advisory Board meeting to order. Appreciate everybody being here. Roll call. Gina?
Here.
Phil?
Here.
Ivana?
Here.
Troy?
Here.
Craig? And I'm Jerry. Asking for approval of the minutes. Get a chance to read them from the last meeting.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Let's review the agenda, looking through new business. Sale of the Pass Creek Park is on the agenda. It's only new business. Old business, I guess we'll find out when I get there. Park advisory actions. Park Advisory Board will take actions on the items heard in new and old business. And the questions, citizens' questions, comments, and agenda will come after the presentation on that new business. So with that in mind, turn it over to the director.
Good morning, Jerry. Good morning, board. Public.
Give a microphone.
It gets picked up here.
Can't really hear very well.
And maybe sit up a little bit closer. I can't control that, Joe. Excuse me.
I don't have a list.
Yeah.
You got it?
You got it.
Quite a few people want to talk. Okay.
Yeah. We need to remind people we're only talking about agenda items. You see one here that's not Pass Creek.
It's on the agenda.
All right, let's get started. Before you board, I have an action item as I'd like to sell Pass Creek Park. Campground's in need of a major renovation, but its low occupancy rate and revenue generation doesn't support the investments required to address existing infrastructure and accessibility deficiencies. Consider the following. The day-use restroom building's in poor condition, is not ADA accessible, and is primarily used as an I-5 rest stop. The campground utilities and campsites are functional, but they are in need of upgrading. The restroom shower building serving the campground is relatively new, is in good condition. The landscape needs in the park are extensive. We're unable to keep up with the current needs, of current staffing levels. The park currently gets approximately 0.5 FTE attention, which should probably be closer to 0.7 to 1.0 if the parks be managed to the high maintenance standard we've set for our other parks. The 0.5 FTE currently used at Pass Creek would be shifted to our other inland parks to allow us to provide a high level of maintenance than they currently get without adding additional staff. Current level of maintenance service, the park lost $12,000 in FY24. In an attempt to increase revenues the last couple of years, we've encouraged and allowed more customers what I would call long-term stays. These are contractors, traveling nurses, and others seeking short-term stays up to 90 days or more. Fiscal year 24, 58% of our revenue was generated from these long-term stays. This indicates the park's primarily serving a short-term housing need instead of a recreational need. We are in the recreation business, not the housing business. Current occupancy rate in FY24, 14%, does not support the current level of investment required to bring the park up to current standards and meet today's customer expectations and legal requirements for accessibility. The county limits their stays to no more than 90 days to avoid establishing a landlord-tenant relationship with its customers, which has legal implications for the county. In private hands, this constraint would not be applicable, allowing a new owner to potentially achieve a better occupancy rate, targeting short and long-term housing needs. I've attached a 3-year look at the financials and broke out a subset of that indicating how much of our revenue as a result of long-term stays currently. I've included some pictures of current infrastructure, the landscape needs, and other pertinent pictures of the park. That concludes my presentation.
Is there any way we can get a microphone? I'm having a hard time hearing. Could the board hear that presentation?
Yes.
You could? Okay. Okay,
Maybe I got you bad here. I need to sit on the other side.
all right, disregard, as long as they can hear it.
I hope two people can hear.
Okay,
Can't hear you.
okay,
Speak up.
okay,
So we open the discussion about this now?
we want to discuss first, right?
There's old business and then
There is no old business.
there's no old business. You wanna get public input first?
I'd like to
Debate.
well, I'd like to ask you a few questions before we shut.
Okay.
That's when,
Do we have data on, because I've been through some ADA compliance issues, do we have data on costs? Ballpark rough estimates to become ADA compliant?
You'd essentially have to replace that restroom up front, restroom building.
Yeah, the whole building.
Two stall equivalent type building, $250,000-$300,000 ballpark.
Okay.
Okay, so, sorry to interrupt, got some requests for microphones. When you guys talk side to side, like you've been doing, nobody out here can hear you. So you need to talk to where your voice projects, this way the microphone's up in the ceiling.
wonderful. That helps.
All
That
right.
helps.
Thanks, Sean.
Is it the big white square?
It's that thing right there,
Thank you.
the green light on it.
Hello.
Thank you.
And I understand we're videotaping, right?
Correct.
And the videotaping takes in this side.
Well, just for all of you, in case you didn't hear, my question to Mark was, what's the approximate cost to replace that building? His response was between $250,000 and $300,000.
Mark, I have one question for you. So in going from a half-time FTE to a full-time FTE, what kind of cost is that gonna incur over the year? If the park owner revenue is only 12,000, it's gonna eat that revenue up plus, can you tell me the
Roughly 45,000.
plus? 45,000 more, okay.
Just for people who don't know, FTE is full-time employee.
Any other question on the board, from the board?
I have a few questions. How many of our parks are completely ADA compliant at this point?
It's a loaded question because you can always find an accessibility issue in a park at a low level. Majority of our parks meet accessibility standards, and those that not, we're in the process of rehabilitating, such as Stanton didn't have an ADA accessible restroom, that's getting replaced. And Whistler, we replaced all the inaccessible single vault toilets down in that park, so we're chipping away at them.
Okay. I noticed in our 2024 financials that we had a surplus of $265,000 for personnel. Is there a reason why none of that went to these employee issues that were mentioned?
Personnel expenses due to hiring, people leaving and, vacancies. I don't generate a surplus per se, any money that I don't spend just basically gets swept into the county general fund or other funds. And so it's not necessarily available.
So is more along, is a better question maybe, was that surplus transitory based on people coming and going? Is that kind of how that, not surplus, is that how that was a
Yeah.
lower amount than typical?
Okay, so I guess I'm still a little bit confused on that end. If this park needed a little bit more dedication of employee and we ended up with a surplus, was it that surplus for 2024 was not
It's just
able to be?
it's just personnel expenses that were budgeted, and due to vacancies and other reasons, we never spent all that money. And so it's just unspent money. And I don't try to zero out my budget and get to zero. If it's left over, it's left over. And then the county general fund or whatever fund the county sweeps it into, that's going to be the CFO.
Okay, so any surplus, it looks like our surplus for 2024 was $1.2 million. That amount will just go into the general fund and then from there, it'll be,
Question for the CFO, how it comes back to support park projects.
okay.
Excuse me.
So a better way to put that in my mind is if we added another half FTE, you would have to raise your budget by another 45,000 to ask for that, whether there's surplus or
We
not,
can't
because
absorb it within that
you have to
surplus.
plan that everybody's gonna be there all year long, whether
Right.
they are or not.
Right.
If 5 people quit in November, you're gonna have a little bit of a surplus because you didn't pay them for December. Or if they quit in August, you're gonna have 3 months of surplus because they didn't work those 3 months, and you can never plan for that.
That's where that 200,000 came from.
Although I think the budget for 2025 for personnel's about the same as it was for 2024.
Correct.
And in 2024, we had that surplus, which
Correct.
seems like you could then
But they'll-
shift a quarter FTE if
They'll be
necessary.
fully staffed in 2025, would eat that surplus up. They're planning for fully staffed in 24.
Okay, what's current staffing?
So they left,
Like
So that's-
18,
17.9,
Well, and didn't you,
which was, but it was, you were budgeted
we
for
haven't changed
17.9.
our FTE the last 3 years.
so if 17.9 stayed on, I deal with this all the time in my job too. If 17.9 stayed on for the whole year, it would have took all that money. But say 3 people decided to quit, now you all of a sudden have a surplus in that budget line item because you didn't plan for them to quit.
Mhm.
You didn't plan for a surplus, you planned to keep everybody on for that whole year.
And we didn't have that 17.9 for the year of 2024?
We were budgeted for it, but we had gaps. We had people retire, we had people leave. And then you got a 1 or 2 month gap before you fill that position, and maybe they come in at a lower salary. And that just kind of rolls up into your budget.
That's what creates your surplus.
well, and then the recruiting process is fairly long.
It takes a couple of months.
Yeah.
So you end up with a gap, and there's a gap that you budgeted for that position. It ends up being surplus.
Would the funding revenue from the sale of this park go back to the Parks Department or to that surplus?
It would accrue as revenue to the Parks Department and would show up as a surplus to the end of the year. And what the management and finance does with those dollars is a question for them.
Okay.
Could it also be used to upgrade another park that needs some updating?
Yep, or it could go to, the county could decide they need the money in solid waste or some other department.
So it doesn't
Sheriff's office.
automatically go back to the
No.
park, it then, okay, goes to that surplus. I don't know if I have any other questions. Have any grants been written to try to obtain any revenue for this specific park?
So so you say that most of the income's coming from a long-term stays right now, and the county is not in the business to be landlords. So at what point does the county decide that we can no longer do long-term stays and it puts us in a complete opposite deficit on that park? I mean, has that decision been made, or are we gonna?
We can do up to 90 days, we're permitted to do that. And so that's well within our rights, and that's what I've been exploiting that just to bring things up, and that seems to be the primary interest in Pass Creek.
Yeah, with the 20% discount, it's about $32 a night for long-term stays. It looks like if you're around $46 a night without giving a discount, we would actually take care of that deficit that we had for this park for 2024.
But then again, we're not in the rental business, so that's the only other issue there.
Which I thought it might, with that focus, if we are not in housing, it seems a little bit, I understand why we'd give a discount for long-term, but then also if our mission is not to be housing and it seems to be heading that way, I could see,
Well, and I
and
think,
we might close the park, I could see
What's the full cost without the discount?
it's 40 and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 40 a night. And
Discount.
then after the 14 days, if you go long-term, it's 20% off there, so
There's
then,
a gradation, the first 2 weeks, second 2 weeks, you get approved for the long term, and then you get the 20% off.
And if you're a veteran, you need a 10% discount.
well, and then I think one of the reasons you offered the discount was to encourage a longer stay to increase revenue. It's kinda like when you have a sale. It's kinda like when you have a sale. You reduce the rate so you can get a longer amount of days for them to stay longer to generate more revenue. If you didn't give the discount, maybe they wouldn't stay as long and the revenue would go down. It's kind of a catch-22, and you said something in your last sentence, in private hands, this constraint would not be applicable, allowing the new owner to potentially achieve a better occupancy rate by targeting short and long-term housing needs. But I know the county does have a pretty significant housing issue. Long-term stays there may provide some relief for that, just as a side note.
Mark, is there anywhere else that we offer up to 90 days, or is this the only park
All the
that's
parks,
being?
all the parks. all the parks.
Is it being utilized at all of them, or is it primarily at Pass
No,
Creek?
it's primarily Pass Creek. We'll have contractors stay occasionally at Stanton, but it's primarily Pass Creek. But the long-term stays are available at all of our parks.
Well, to me, it sounds like Pass Creek Park's turned into an RV park with a freeway restroom.
Although with the long-term stays, it seems like they have verified, you have to have verifiable income in this area, right? You have to do 50% down for the long-term
There's a
portion,
process to get approved.
like an application of sorts. And it was mentioned, a lot of traveling nurses and other people in the business, okay.
We actually have a number of people, it seems like it serves the Eugene Cottage Grove market pretty well. A number of the traveling nurses that we've had there and contractors there working in the Eugene area, and Cass Creek seems to be the closest they can find decent accommodations. In addition to the restroom building needing remodeling, the campground itself needs a remodel, and at $30,000 to $40,000 per site, you're looking at $1 million plus, and that frankly is the driver behind not wanting to invest in this park.
What all are those upgrades? You mentioned other utilities.
Utilities,
So is there electrical needing upgrading?
electrical, water, sewer upgrades, the sewer intakes are pathetic right now. And needs a paving job, and just needs a makeover like we're doing with Stanton and Whistler.
How many, I'm sure we talked about it already, but how many sites are there?
30
at 30,000 per site?
30 to 40 is what they've been running on my past projects. So there's $1 million there and another, say 1.3 restroom up front, and I frankly can't justify that.
How does the garbage work on that north of the county?
We have a garbage service and a pickup.
Any more comments, questions?
Get the park back up.
We have one, is our north, fire district. Building?
The fire district building is off our property, however, they get our water from us, and we've committed to ensuring that water supply.
That
Move
was my
forward with the
question,
sale.
so that they're gonna get water regardless.
Yeah, we'll get something put in the deed to address that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so open up public comment. If I'm wrong on this, help me.
One of the sheriffs wants
Yeah,
to
what's your
talk
name?
first. Jerry?
What?
The sheriffs wants to talk
Am I
first.
okay to come up?
Oh, please.
I'm Deputy Onslager with the Sheriff's Office. I've been employed with DCSO for approximately 6 months. I've spent about 2.5 years in law enforcement, 2 of those years spent with the Myrtle Creek Police Department. I'm very familiar with what the parks brings, the benefits, what those parks brings to the Douglas County community, what it does for the people. I'm in here today on behalf of the residents in Amber Lane and the Green area. The Happy Valley boat ramp, to be specific, the Happy Valley boat ramp has,
Excuse me, that's not on the agenda today. We really need to stay on focus.
okay, I didn't realize, were you the one that I talked to on the phone? I talked to somebody that directs the parks that said I could come here today and talk about it, so, a couple weeks ago.
I don't know who talked to you, but we do need to keep the focus on Pass Creek, and
How
that
long
is,
is it gonna take?
It shouldn't take very long,
Can you do it in 3?
absolutely.
Go.
Okay, so just essentially on behalf of the residents in that area, there's been a spike in people loitering, especially past hours, lots of drug use. The sheriff's office responds to all those calls. We're just seeking to speak on behalf of the residents there as well, to see if we can find some sort of way. I know everything costs money, but if we can find some sort of way on maybe ensuring that the gate is fixed or if there's a lockout time, anything like that, that would be very much appreciated. And if there's any information as far as calls for service or anything like that that you guys need from the sheriff's office, I will seek the permission of my lieutenant and can get you whatever you guys need if we can find some medium ground on that, so,
Thank you,
thank you guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's been talked about that part before. Some of you guys look familiar, now I know why.
Hang on,
So we're not gonna get a chance to talk.
Unfortunately, based on the agenda, the comments were restricted to those. Unless Jerry wants to make an addendum.
all I can tell you is that have an hour, then we can get okay to go another 90 minutes and we're out of here. So if we can get done with stuff before,
All of you, just leave then.
what's that?
Well, and what if we go through the Pass Creek, if we have some time, could they?
That's what
come
I'm
on
telling
the
you,
tail
if we
end?
get through Pass Creek and we have time, I can do that 90-minute thing. So don't run away, you
Yeah,
might
we,
learn.
we wanna hear you, we just wanna
Oh, absolutely.
adhere to the agenda. If we can
We're
get
gonna
through the
all learn
Pass Creek Park, then we'll stick around and wait. And I'd be happy to talk to you after.
The board's very progressive and very knowledgeable and got a wide range of backgrounds, so, and one thing I like about them, they're very transparent and we try to help. That's the one I'll go on at, we try to help. Okay, so now we're gonna go into discussion on, and I still don't know how to say that name.
Avi Zohar?
Lenny Zona? Thank you, sir.
Apologize for
If we mess up
misspelling.
anybody's name, just gonna apologize in advance.
Oh, that's
Not
cool.
intentional.
So here, I got copies of this, what I'm just gonna talk about for you guys. My name is Avi Zohar. I live in North Douglas County. I'm interested in the well-being of our public lands. As a resident of the county, I read on your website that the community members and others interested in the park development are invited to comment during the Douglas County Parks planning process. I am a firm believer in communication. I also believe that a clear, concise communication, there is nothing we as a people can't accomplish collectively. With that said, I'm seeking clarity on how we can accomplish this sometimes daunting task. I have a few questions that I was hoping you could answer today that might bring us this clarity. I would like to ask if you could hold your answers until I'm done presenting my questions. First question, what is the mechanism for which the public is notified of changes, goal exemptions that pertain to the Douglas County Parks Master Plan? Policy 27 of the master plan states on page 9 to 12 that the Parks Recreation element of the master plan states the county shall continue to encourage and seek public ideas, comments, and news through news media, public informational meetings, surveys, etc. Question number 2, how much advance time is given to the public advisory board meetings where the public can make comments on proposed changes to the Douglas County Master Parks Plan? The ORS code for goal exceptions, each notice of public hearing on a proposed exception shall specifically note that a goal exemption is proposed and shall summarize the issues in an understandable manner. Question number 3, how does this board record and compile these public comments when copies of when are the copies of the minutes of these meetings filed in the Douglas County Clerk's office? And my last question is how do these proposed changes to the Douglas County Parks lands, specifically Pass Creek, fit into this published 2016 Douglas County Local Masters Parks Plan? In closing, I want to thank you for serving as Douglas County Parks Advisory Board and for doing this complicated work. I understand it's complicated. I would like to better understand the process and to support Douglas County Parks, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is an example of what we need. Stayed under his time frame and got right to the point. Well done, well done.
What do you wanna handle? Who's gonna take the answer? I'd like to answer his question. One of you.
Question 1 was the mechanism in which public's notified of changes that pertain to current. I think there's a two-part question there because there's a planning effort going through the planning department. They have their planning commission and their public notices and so there's that planning effort.
Okay.
And then there's the Parks Advisory Board. So there's really two boards. There's the Planning Commission and the Park Advisory Board. They have their public meetings. And so that's the mechanism.
So so with the real, I think the note of this question is how is the public notified? How, do you take out a ad in the newspaper? Do you put it on the news? How are the people in the public gonna go, oh, there's a planning meeting, I see it, here's a
So
notification.
planning meeting, I'm not in the planning department, but my understanding is they send notices to all adjacent landowners, neighbors.
Mhm.
And then the agenda for the planning commission is posted to the public. Where it's incumbent on the public to go to those websites and monitor meetings and agendas. I mean, we're not reaching out to every individual and saying, hey, you gotta be here.
So does that work the same way with this committee?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Does that answer question one?
Question one is answered.
How much advance time is given to public advisory board meetings? The meetings are published, posted on our website, and the agenda items have to be posted a minimum of 24 hours before the meeting.
Okay, so you're saying that I understand what you're saying, and I wanna try to get my wording correct, cause I don't wanna offend anybody, right? Cause that's not my intention.
That's a high bar for me, so you
You
probably.
know, some people it isn't though. But so how is a person, how is, I live in Elkton, how am I gonna go, if I'm reading a newspaper, how is, do I have to go to your website every day to know if there's gonna be a meeting tomorrow?
So I guess, are you suggesting you would prefer alternative notifications other than the website?
Well, yeah, if you look at if you looked at the ORS, it says a public hearing process shall specifically note the goal of exception is summarized and issued in an understandable manner. So so for me, 'cause I read the master plan. It was super dry, it was like, but I read it.
It's like
Right,
reading a prescription.
and I looked at the statutes that they were trying to do, what the Parks Advisory Board at that time was trying to do to make it so that it was, everything they did was super transparent, right? And so, you know, it's like every time they finished one of these meetings, they would say, you know, according to that, what I've read, they would say, okay, these are gonna be submitted a certain amount of time into the county clerk's office, so they could be accessed by the public. But they also, I think what they really wanted to do was to have some way to tell the public, okay, we're having this meeting. I personally would like to see some way that flavor would be, okay, so maybe a week before the meeting, we put an ad in the paper saying, we're gonna have this parks meeting because we want, you know, because if we all understand and we all communicate in a way it's easier, there's gonna be way less problems, right? And so that's what I think about question number two.
I hear you.
I gotta keep you moving, we gotta focus on what we're
okay.
gonna do with that park.
Okay,
And maybe it's a different agenda item about notices. I mean, I wanna kinda leave it that way, cause I can tell right now, we're gonna be, probably burn up 1/3 of our time.
okay, so can we just skip question three and answer question four? How does this proposed changes to this parkland specifically fit into the local master plan?
The 2016 master plan, it's not a static document. We've done a number
Oh,
of,
yeah,
we've done a number of improvements since then.
Mhm.
We haven't heard any complaints from the public going, hey, you just remodeled Whistler, that wasn't in your master plan. It's a living document. Manage the park department and try to move it forward. We're not always going back to the master plan. The master plan is, it's vague, you know, it's a lot of concepts. It's not
Absolutely.
specific.
Absolutely.
And so it's kind of a roadmap, but it's not the absolute definition that says, we're gonna keep these parks, we're gonna sell these parks, we're gonna do all of these improvements. For example, Discovery Point, RV Park, the county board, that's not in the master plan.
Mhm.
Okay. Maybe it's time for a refresh of the master plan, but it's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily guide everything Parks Department does.
You know, I understand that that's hard for you guys, I understand that. All I'm really asking is the processes, right, of how people are notified. My whole thing is about how are we gonna learn, you know, how am I gonna learn what's going on?
I would then, what I'd suggest is get involved with our park advisory board.
Okay,
And we do, the meetings are generally quarterly and we'll have them up there. So like the December 19th, this meeting,
Mhm.
it's probably on there a month or so ago when we decided we're gonna have it. and then the agenda comes out a few days before that.
Excellent.
Go onto the Parks Department website, and I think even the county's main website shows all the scheduled meetings. And you can see it, and then a day or two before the meeting, we'll post the agenda, you can look at the agenda and see if there's anything that interests you.
Awesome. And so that's where I would go to get
Correct.
with you guys. Okay.
This is these are the folks you primarily wanna interact with. Any votes or decisions they make are simply advisory to the county commissioners.
Mhm.
And then if, whatever action they recommend, the county commissioners will take up, and the public will have another opportunity to comment in the Board of Commissioners meeting when and if they take any action based on recommendations coming out of this board.
Awesome.
Can I make a comment about master planning?
Sure.
So just for awareness, I do master planning for a living. Every day of my life is master planning. One thing that I always talk about when we're setting out a master plan for anybody that we're doing it for, master plans are for 5, 10, 15, but they need to be looked at every couple years, even sometimes every year. They change all the time. That's one thing we need to know about master, just because it says this, it's not concrete. I mean, I do it at a very high level, I do it all the time. So just so you know that about master planning.
All
I
right.
think there's an old saying that I like to repeat frequently. That is, that times, places, and events of the future may very well determine what the right course of action. All we can do is be honest and deal with the facts at hand today. That's all we can do. So tomorrow, something happens, it could change, that was a wrong thing to do, right? Who can do that? Times, places, and events of the future.
Awesome.
We gotta move.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Karen Robertson,
That's,
what'd I do? I'm sorry. I got,
I was gonna talk about, give you a report on tonight.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
fit till later, I don't think.
hang tough, thank you, I didn't read that second column, thank you.
Ellen
Alan,
Bunce or Bruce?
Bunce.
Yeah, thank you guys for, especially for allowing us to speak before you make the decision. That's not always the case around here. I first got involved with the parks issues about 10 years ago, starting with Miller Knipe. And I sat through many park advisory board meetings when it was very contentious, when it was kind of a rubber stamping everything that the commissioners asked for. I saw a lot of dishonesty. And a lot of people here sat through that as well. It got to the point where I finally got up and questioned the integrity of the commissioners and the board and walked out. And unfortunately, here I am back today. Here we are. This has the appearance of a con job, to the public. It really does. And if you look at it from the public's perspective, the Pass Creek Park comes up on an agenda, and it doesn't say anything about it. Whoever wrote the agenda obviously knew that you guys were gonna be discussing the sale of Pass Creek Park. You probably had Mr. Wall come and give a sales pitch to all of you guys and ask you immediately to make a decision. We logged Booz and Bark to create this Parks Master Plan, and I know Parks Master Plans can change and stuff, but to the public, Pass Creek Park, according to the Parks Master Plan, was to be continued in operation. So when just the simple word Pass Creek pops up on an agenda, the public doesn't know what you guys are talking about. And then the next notification that the public receives is a little tiny quip in the paper about a zone change, or a little quip in the paper about sale of assets. And in the zone change, it doesn't say Pass Creek Park, it's just tax lots. So when the news broke that the park was to be sold, it blindsided everybody. So what I'm imploring you guys to do is to pump the brakes on this, to do your due diligence, have a town hall meeting, have it in Drain or somewhere in North County, and let the public be involved. Let the public help with ideas, let them, volunteer to work at the park. Just don't keep the public in the dark. That's what I'm asking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so it's clear, Alan, I never talked to the director, the commissioners at all about this agenda, just so I want you to clear, there's no slanting, no viewpoint, no, I already got my mind made up. For reasons being my own, I stayed away from any of that discussion. I wanna hear this today, just so you know that.
Yeah, and I'd like to piggyback on that. There's no opportunity for me to gain a damn thing from this.
Right.
To say that I'm in the business of conning someone frankly irks me.
Well, let
I
me,
mean, you're practically calling me dishonest to my face. That's generally not a good plan.
no.
He meant-
Let me clarify. I'm not talking about you guys being dishonest. I'm talking about the process and not you guys. You know, once again, it's, you know, you're kinda asked to do something by the county. You're, you know, they're not advising you to set up a town hall meeting or anything like that. They're advising you to sell it. Correct?
He's requesting,
Requesting for you guys to sell it, and you guys are volunteer. I've served on many boards, I've had things go, you know, over my head, and I've made, you know, I've made decisions, large monetary decisions, where in retrospect, I look back and went, oh my gosh, you know, I was duped on that. So I apologize if it came off that way.
Well, and the thing is, you know, the town hall meeting and all that stuff, that's a fine idea, but I don't think that's the purview of this board. If the commissioners wanna have a town hall meeting, they can, you know, that's up to them, you know. We make a recommendation, we don't decide anything. We're not in the deciding business, we make a recommendation, someone else decides.
Part of the thing that we need to remember too, and you know, all of us are volunteers. I grew up, my family homesteaded. I used to go by Pass Creek Park all the time. I delivered to Curtin Store. I delivered to Cold Springs when it was still open. I worked for Coca-Cola as a kid because Bruce Hanna gave me a chance. So I come from this community. There's no dishonesty. We are here to make data-driven decisions based on the data that's in front of us. And we have to leave feelings out of our decisions. And I have to do that all the time at all kinds of different things. That's the way that you run things, right? And the town hall is great and we'll come up with ideas, but is there anything that's data-driven that's gonna back up to be able to make the decision in the right? Cause if we go through and we do all this town hall and we get everybody saying, yes, I'll help, I'll do this, and anybody fails in any part of that, we're right back to square one where we are now. And so that's why at least my decisions that I make on this board are what the numbers are in front of me, what it says, and how we can keep all of the parks in all of the county moving. And I know this is one park, and I know we've had Booster Park. I grew up in 10 Mile. My family homestead at Lockwood Road. I felt that, okay? I went there as a kid. I camped at the little one just above. I did all that stuff. Those are tough decisions. Those are all data driven, and that's how it, and I'm not trying,
No,
I don't get anything out of doing this either.
And I understand, but to my point, the data that you guys are receiving is coming from the Parks Department, the Planning Department, the commissioners. I went to the Planning Department today and saw the stack of opposition letters from the adjacent landowners. Did those go to you guys? The Planning Department says that there's no mechanism in place for that information to go to you guys. And I
There
asked
again,
if
those are feelings from the people that live around the park.
Sure.
There's no data in those feelings, and I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not trying to, I do have feelings too, right? I do. But when the decisions come to this level, that's what we have to look at. It's unfortunate sometimes, and there's always gonna be someone upset with it. There just is. It's just the way, we always know that you can't please everybody. And we're just trying to do the best, at least my decision, I don't have anything to do with their decisions. My decisions are based off the numbers in front of me, the business case that's done, and the reason we can't keep it going. That's how my decision is. That's a background on me. It's just the way I have to move it forward.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alan, I just wanna add one thing, and that was you talking about a town hall meeting, public process. I want you to appreciate the fact that this meeting was scheduled specifically for Pass Creek based on public concerns. There wasn't enough public opportunity for input. So that's why we're having this meeting.
And that's great, you know, and even though it was hard to nail down a date and everything,
thank you.
and to get clarity on that.
And
Thank
all
you.
of these meetings are open. Every parks, we've had people, Joe's came in before for this already a couple months ago, and that's what really spurred this even more. All these meetings are open. So I love seeing people in the crowd because I wanna hear what people have to say.
Right, and like I said at the beginning, I appreciate you guys allowing us time. It's, at other county meetings, it's not like that. They will vote in front of us on an item and then let us talk about it and say, sorry, we already voted. And, you know, to follow the process of this whole park has been jumping through hoops. You know, they'll put it on the agenda, they'll take it off the agenda. You guys will schedule a meeting, you'll drop the meeting.
Hang on to
just as-
procedure thoughts, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Alan.
and I know how it works, you know,
And I'll just-
I know.
I gotta move this thing, I gotta keep it moving. Everybody has a right to talk. I will say something fast, in my 1 minute. My history goes back when I was 20, 21, and 22. I drove Freightliners, Peterbilts, and whatever, pulled in there all the time to the restaurant. I've camped at Pass Creek. I went up there because somebody called me at home. I went up there and looked at it last week. There was an accident, happened that way. Some pedestrian got hit that day on a Sunday. I was there. I watched the semis go on in and out of that place. I did all the things I told the person on the phone I would do. I got a lot of history there, like I said, from driving truck, parking there. But those things really don't matter a lot. I stayed there with the family, camped there a couple times. Anyway, fast forward, I know the park. I'm 76 years old. I just told you I did that when I was 20, 21, and 22. That's how many years of history I got there. So, moving right along. Mark Shaw.
Hi, I'm Mark Shaw, thanks for having me. I have some pictures of Pass Creek Park coming off of the freeway. As you entering where Pass Creek Park is and showing the burnt out coach house building. I've been a resident in Curtin for 50 years. I've watched a lot of stuff go on. I've seen a lot of stuff what you've seen, Jerry, and stuff. So if I can, I'd like to put this somewheres also. And then I didn't print up enough of these, but I went around prior to when you guys were sending out the zoning change. And so I went around and got a numerous amount of names that read this letter, and I'd like to pass this around. I didn't get enough of them to give to everybody, so if you guys can pass those around. And then I also have the permission from Larry Lyman, Larry Lyman, Debbie Campbell, Steve Marshall they have sent in letters proposing opposing the zone change. Never heard anything back, and I never heard, I live down Bear Creek Road, I didn't hear anything about this until after everything was happening and everybody was in an uproar. And I'm just like, holy mackerel, I've been involved in a zone change before, and it didn't seem like if somebody opposed it, it had to be something more taken a look at. It doesn't seem like, it seems like everything just went on the wayside. And so I have a series of questions and stuff like, and I emailed Chris Boyce about stuff, and he mentioned back to me that Curtin uses more resources per capita. And that kind of really, I mean, that really got me because I don't understand that at all. But here's some of these questions that I have. So back in February 22nd of 23, approximately, the coach house burnt down. From 2023 to 2022 to 2023, there was a decrease in revenue of nearly $20,000. Early of 2023 was when the coach house burnt down. I would be curious what the 2022 plus the 2023 profit and loss looks like when broken down by month to month. In addition, Curtin has been plagued with run-down buildings, broken down vehicles within eyesight of the park's entrance. it has also been brought to my attention that the most recent camp hosts have not been caring for the park appropriately, thus allowing a lot of the park's deterioration to occur at a more rapid rate than it might otherwise have. It has also been called into question whether they were allowing people to stay in the park for free. Might that not contribute to the loss of revenue? So I question, how is a camp host chosen? Who monitors them? We've also been informed that approximately 20 cars and trucks per day pull into the park road. Might some of these people not be possibly lost or something about, I wrote something about the closure, I'm sorry. So what I'm saying is, what can we do as a community to help this park? Our community needs this park. We're here, we want to help, we would like to take it to more time, give it more time to get the entrances cleaned up. We'd like to see more activities to bring people into the park, such as free fishing weekends, get grants, donations to set up a playground, basketball court, dog park, create a horse accommodations in an RV spot or two for travelers, wildlife viewing, education, adverse for events, sign as such as birthdays, parties, families, reunions, class reunions, etc.
I get it, those are great ideas. Gotta time, doggone it. But thank you,
Thank you for your input.
Can you give me any answers to any of these questions?
For now.
I'll answer the one on the camp hosts. Camp hosts aren't responsible for maintaining the campground.
I didn't ask that.
You did, you said the camp
Well,
hosts were
take
not
care of the
maintaining the
campground.
facilities.
Oh,
just-
okay,
just setting-
but how were they chosen?
How they chosen?
Yeah, how were they cho-
apply and they get vetted, they get background checks, they get vetted. We have a camp host coordinator
Right,
that manages them across
Okay.
all our parks. And I also would refute that we're allowing people to stay there for free.
of course.
Well, you made the claim that we were. I'm just
No,
refuting
I'm
it.
saying, what if the camp host is allowing friends or somebody in there to come in there and not pay and allow them to stay?
That's not acceptable, and that's not what I heard.
Absolutely unacceptable, but how do we know if that is happening or not?
Because we have a camp host coordinator and we
Yeah.
keep track of who's in our parks.
And so if I go in there and I camp and I pay, I get a receipt?
Mhm.
And then those receipts get transferred back to you guys to see if those receipts are all accountable?
We have, you have a hang tag that you put out there to the
Yes.
campsite. Now,
Yes.
camp hosts, if you've got an incoming reservation, you're staying there for 3 days at site 10,
Yes,
when you show up, there'll usually be a thing there saying
yes,
your last name and your dates of stay.
yes,
So
yeah.
that's what we use to check on people.
Yeah, and just one more point I'd like to say is, this park has served Curtin well for all of us in the close community. Our kids were raised there, my daughter named the ducks in there and this, that, and the other. I know that may not mean much to you guys, but this means a lot to us. And for us to close the park and then to use that money to use for other revenue, it seems like it's 38 miles from Cresswell to Oakland in between the rest areas. And in between that is approximately 20 miles for another rest area right there past Creek Park that could be used, and bring in revenue. And if it,
How do you generate revenue being an I-5 rest stop?
Okay, that's a good question.
You don't.
No, there is. If you come in there and you wanna use it, you pay a fee. And there used to
We'll
be-
spend more on the restaurant fee, trying to chase people down to make sure they pay the fee than we get from the fee.
And if you charge a fee, people will just stay on the road
They'll
and
just
go down
keep
to
going and they'll go to the
Yeah,
exit
yeah,
and
yeah.
they'll pee on
Some
the burned out
people-
building that's in front of them.
Yeah.
Hang on, we gotta move, we gotta go.
Okay, yeah.
Taking our
Well,
time.
okay, one more thing though, you guys really need to address Curtin as an unsightly place. It's not to code, it's what's going on, it's
Outside-
dangerous.
That's outside of our purview, the Parks
Mark-
Department can't tear
Mark,
that
you were
down.
getting an A and you ended up with a
Look
B.
at what you're
All right.
looking at when you come into the park. If
Colleen,
you wanted to come in here and
please,
see.
Mark,
Yeah, but okay, listen, you guys, you're not paying attention
I
to
can't
this.
We got-
Mark,
I was
can't-
just there 2 days
Yeah,
ago.
I drive by that all the time.
And so would you wanna bring your kids in there?
I
Well, I do
appreciate
when they
your
have to go to the
passion.
bathroom.
hang on, you guys.
Let's keep it on track.
Thank you for your
We're
time.
staying very professional, we're staying very polite, we're gonna stay cordial to each other. I promise that. Colleen, you're up.
I don't have any data or anything.
Just talk from Colleen Shaw, that's who I wanna hear.
Art here, because I've been there since 73, 74. And used that park, still use that park, you know. It's the only open space that we have up in North County where to do all the things that they've already talked about, the bikes and the dogs and the kids and all this stuff. And for us to lose that, and then the money goes to some park down somewhere else, and we're left without it. And it may not be data to you guys, but it's very important to us and our families that have been there for decades and decades and generations, some of them. So I really hope that you don't just decide to sell it because of data. Because we need it up there. We don't have nothing. There's nothing within 10 miles for park.
You know, you're exactly right, you're 9 miles away from the next park, 'cause I drove it 3 times.
Yeah,
The new one
okay,
up
I
to
was a mile off,
9 miles,
so.
yeah.
You know, but the point is that there's nothing up there. And because of these old buildings and the people that just like go in there and take over somebody just took over the store again. I mean, they just move in and we have, you know, we call the sheriff's department, they're awesome, they come, they try, they do what they can. But we need some help,
Thank you,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, well done. Diana Larson, am I right?
Yep. Oregon Lottery funds, they're going to be 947 million to the state in 2024, and that's 48 million increase from previous year. Places that are eligible for those funds include local government agencies that provide public recreation facilities such as cities, counties, and park and recreation districts. That would be a viable answer, and Pass Creek is well worth looking into. I would like to know who would apply for those grants specifically. If it's the public or is it you?
It's the county, cause the
And-
grants typically require up to a 50% match, so
But-
you need to have the financial wherewithal to provide that match if you're asking.
Some of them, but
We have
you
a
could
grant writer on the
investigate
board.
and
Help you right down there, right?
Oh, I'm not a grant writer. I write some, but I'm not a grant writer. It would just depend on the grant. Some of them require a match, some of them don't,
right,
and they're all different time frames.
Mark does a good job going after grants too, he gets quite a few of them.
Yeah, and then
That's
typically a
true.
50% match.
True, so we're,
Yeah, and
You got a circle
could
on the
somebody, cause you guys are all volunteers, so somebody in the community volunteer to apply for those grants? Does it
I
have to
can't-
be a,
Well, the problem
Okay.
is that I can't volunteer to commit the county's money.
Yeah, the first thing, for the county to apply for a grant, the first thing you need is a resolution from the Board of Commissioners authorizing to apply for the grant, and that
Right.
implies that whatever the grant is, that they're committing the county to provide the match.
I'm just making you aware that that money is out there and it's well over what it's normally been. And in government terms, a $12,000 deficit is not a lot. And 3 years of financials, why weren't there more? The financials that
The
were,
two prior years were COVID, so it really wouldn't have been meaningful to
Would've
provide
been
numbers during COVID.
right, and it seems like
If I wanted to
COVID,
make a better case, I would have included them, but it didn't seem reasonable to include the COVID years.
And remember the deficit, you have to add $1.3 million to that in order to get that park up to being what Curtin wants and
right, and that's
expects.
the grant.
Yeah.
We're looking at
Okay.
lots of options. So the brand new gas station and convenience store across the street, it's like that whole area is ripe for improvement and becoming what it used to be. And the zoning that you guys have already done, it shouldn't be any more difficult to unzone it than it was to rezone it. In my opinion, selling the park is like the story of the goose that laid the golden egg. Like I said, it's a prime location and it's in a prime position with that new facility right there across the freeway to be a really great place for people to stop.
Who's to say that the person that comes in and buys it doesn't make it a really good place? I mean, there's always that aspect. I know everybody wants the doom and gloom and look at it as we're gonna have all these single wide trailers in a trailer park. This could be a great RV park for somebody. I have no idea who wants to buy it. I mean, but what if somebody came in and cleaned it up? All of a sudden now you have a little golf course there. You have the fishing, you have the dog park, you have the stuff because a nice RV park came in that the county doesn't have the money to do.
Yeah, potentially, but that's what I'm saying, it's like the goose that laid the golden egg. You're gonna kill the goose to get a golden egg, and then the golden egg's gonna be gone, and that will be it. And I don't see that perhaps it'd be a good idea to table this decision, not make a decision today, give some time to look into the things, cause I'm not the last one to talk, and there's other good ideas. I don't see that it's gonna cause a financial disaster for the county to hold off on selling the park. It's not like the money is desperately needed somewhere else. And speaking of money and waste, if the master plan is null and void, that was a lot of time and money wasted. You know, why do you spend all the time and money on a master plan if it's toilet paper?
Well, Diana, that was 9 years ago. Things change in 9 years.
And it's also not toilet paper. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
could
you
talk
said
master
that
plan all day
master
long.
plans are
I-
only good.
I gotta move it, I gotta keep this thing
Okay,
moving.
and that's all I had.
I'm not gonna win a popularity contest today, but I gotta keep it going.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Diana.
thank you, very well done, I love this stuff. Another Diane, am I right, Diane Phillips?
Yeah, hi. I live in Azalea, which is also down in the end of the county, and so
Excuse me, Diane, I have to do something.
Sure.
These meetings are set for 1 hour, and in order to get another half hour, I have to ask the board for approval. Do I have approval to extend this meeting in another 30 minutes?
I approve.
I approve.
Approve, do you approve?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so we're an hour on, so go ahead.
Thank you.
And and I've also served on many boards, including being on the budget committee for the college. Very much care about Douglas County and the residents and our way of life, lived here over 40 years. And so I see Roseburg a lot of times, and I know you guys have experience up there, but as being, you know, the end all and forgetting about the people in these other areas. And I noticed during the meeting that there's a lot more public comment that is wanted, and people, and me, if it weren't for my friends, I would have never known about this meeting. I think I think these rushing to do these decisions sometimes is not always a good thing. I came from a very elite town in northern Michigan on Lake Michigan, and their whole revenue is tourism. And they do very well there. But I live in Douglas County because I love Douglas County. I'm a Douglas County person now. But in the past, we did this parks things where it's all about revenue, do the numbers match up? What about having parks because it makes it a better place to live for us? I think looking at just numbers sometimes is not always the way to make these decisions, especially on parks. Because these are something that improve our quality of life. And I know in the past, Carl C. Hill Park down there, they closed that for a while, and now the community takes over and does absolutely everything there, including cleaning the bathrooms and everything. I know down in Long Fiber Park, down in Azalea, we went down there, we measured to make sure you could not log our trees because they were within the zone of the riparian. It's an all riparian area, two creeks come together. But they wanted to sell that also. And then here again, now, someone said you don't know who's gonna buy it, but I have a feeling somebody knows that there's somebody out there that's interested, or they wouldn't be in such a hurry. Now, I'm sure I could be wrong. But I just think you're, putting all the money at the coast and some of these other big development parks are missing the point. And also I wanted to comment on you're saying, well, we're not a landlord. People are staying there long-term for jobs, so on. Obviously, there's a need. And I'm not one that goes to the parks and asks people why they're staying there. Are you here for recreation? Are you here because you're in the area and there's not other housing opportunities? This is a better short term. They're using the park. So, and I think that's the main point, that the park is being used, the people up there care about it. I care about it because I care about all the parks and all the reason I live in Douglas County isn't because of the clear cuts. And I understand that, I've never been against the timber industry, but it's the beauty of living here. That's why I don't live in hoity-toity, my hometown and I wanna say one more thing. When they make a change back where I'm from, it is completely discussed. They don't shy away from they work together, and in the end, it ends up being that they make better decisions. So I just want you to think about that and not rush to a decision, because I think parks are important, and not in this minute. And it sounds like we have money if we go out there and look for it, and rather than sending it back to the general fund.
Thank you.
I do wanna make a
Thank
point,
you.
I don't think we're rushing this, we started this in February of last year.
But I didn't know about it.
And that, I understand that part, but these meetings are open for everybody to come on, and I'm not gonna talk about the processes, but it did start in February, so it's been a long process. It didn't start last week and we're rushing to this, just for clarification.
Thank you. Joe, Ross?
Excuse me.
Dang, I had my timer all ready to go, just hang on a sec.
I got time.
There's copies of my statement today.
Great, thank you.
Make it easier on you guys.
Sure.
I just wanted to first start and also thank you for your service as volunteers, representing all the public of Douglas County. I wanted to present you with a Christmas present. It's for the love of the land, the legacy of Mildred Knipe. He talked about it at the last meeting, and I would really appreciate it if you guys would pass that around and read it, because I've highlighted, for the folks that haven't, I've highlighted about 50 pages in there that talks about her ethic for the land,
There's a
land
gal in the back of
stewardship.
this room
You're
to help
cutting into
write
my
that.
time, sir, you're cutting into my
Go for
time
it.
now, you
Joey got,
you better give me an extra minute for that.
no, Joe, you got 4 minutes, so we'll start
Go-
on task.
go ahead.
Okay, well, you just gave me 20 more seconds, okay. You guys have kicked a big hornet's nest and you've got a little swarm of angry critters here that have woke today. I really think a public open house in Curtin is needed without time constraints, so you can hear intentions, answer questions, and get input without time constraints. Not everybody has time to take off work on a Thursday morning and come to Roseburg, especially if you live in Curtin. Now, if you consider Powell's Creek Park as a redheaded stepchild that no longer want it, I do support its transfer to another jurisdiction and not sold for commercial development. Those 23 acres should remain as a park of some time, and please pass an advisory motion to that effect. Now, the sale of the Powell's Creek Park is inconsistent with the Parks Master Plan. That's been brought up before. It was identified for active management. Page 14 of the Parks Master Plan talks about the process to be used for amending the plan. It says it will go through a plan amendment, public comment will be gathered and solicited, and then you have to have a public hearing. It says on page 14, that's your plan, that's what the county bought off on. So, you should consider alternatives to, the sale of Powell's Creek Park. And also, I like this process today, Mark, that you put together with an action plan. You've laid out some great photos and data and figures today. The same process should be used for Hedden Park in Scottsburg and Green Oaks Park in the Green District. You know, you guys just barely put those on your February meeting as one little line item, Powell's Creek, Hedden, Green Oaks. And it didn't indicate anything about a sale of them. So to answer Troy's, comment that you've discussed this in the past, well, I have to somewhat disagree with him on that, because even though it said Pass Creek under new business, the public had no clue that it was about the sale of those parks.
If you go to the subsequent pages behind the cover sheet, you will see the agenda
Yeah.
items in detail.
And those were not online. Those supplemental information is not provided online, and you only load your agenda items about 24 hours before. So the public is expected to drop everything and for 24 hours, jump on your website, find the agenda, find the supplemental materials, analyze it all, digest it, and come up with something coherent. When it's so cryptic that it just says Pass Creek, Hedden, or Green Oaks with no indication of what it's really about. The May minutes that you developed only said a motion was passed contingent upon providing emergency services for water up there, access to the water. What motion was passed? I read those May minutes back when they were uploaded in late September. Finally, the county got around to uploading the minutes for your May meeting in September. And I read the minutes and I said, what the heck does that mean? A motion was passed contingent upon provision of water for emergency services. Anyway, I got about a minute left. I'm gonna jump to my recommendations here. I've been in touch with my congressional delegations and I have a win-win solution for everybody. Please put the park sale on hold, at least till an open house can be held in North County. We have a new administration in DC on January 20th. We're gonna see changes in timber management through the new mega administration under Trump. We're gonna see more intensive timber harvest. We're gonna see more receipts on the ONC lands. I've been in touch with the BLM director, the chief forester of the Forest Service, the Oregon State Director for BLM, and developed in partnership with these federal agencies and the Cow Creek Indians, a visitor center at the county line could provide great interpretation of Native American use, history of the ONC lands, timber and wildlife management, as well as provide recreation opportunities. And if you provide for this opportunity, I would even support calling it the Freeman Boyce Tress ONC Lands Visitor Center. And that would be a great thing, and I think the people of Curtin would really appreciate that. In closing, I would like to say, I've talked to the BLM managers yesterday at the Roseburg District BLM, and they did not close the door on this idea. They said their priority is on improving the site's up the North Umpqua River that were impacted by the Archie Creek fire. And their emphasis on recreation opportunities will continue in the North Umpqua River corridor. However, they did tell me that if a larger directive or initiative came down with funding for a partnership for visitor use, recreation, interpretation, and education, BLM would potentially be open to being involved as a partner. I would like to reference you to my second attachment, a letter from Senator Jeff Merkley, who has written back to me to say, thank you for your message and correspondence, and thanks to you. And that goes from fellow Oregonians who have also expressed concerns about Pass Creek Park. My staff is taking a closer look into this matter. So I think that you could, with a little bit of lobbying, Mark, find some federal investment in Pass Creek. You could improve Curtin. You could make this a win-win, not only for the neighbors there, for the Parks Department, and for the visitors to the Western Oregon that have no clue about what the ONC is all about. You could tell the story of why we don't have essential services in the county. And thank you for allowing me to go over. Lastly, I would recommend and advise you as a board to pass one additional motion, and that is to allow each speaker up to 8 minutes to speak. Because at present, 300 seconds are inadequate, and that is less time than it takes me to make a cup of instant coffee in the morning. Thank you.
I gave you 7 for the
Thanks,
record.
Joe.
Thank you. Okay, I got Bob White.
Oh, okay. I didn't know I'd be called
Got
up.
two,
but,
two more after Bob, so we're.
Maybe 2 minutes or something, hopefully on the positive side, because looking at it from an overview, it's a beautiful area. I use that park quite often on my trips to and from Eugene and up and down the freeway. I have a lot of peace and quiet there, solace, enjoy the wildlife. I have a lot of pictures I've taken through the years of the real beauty there. You know, I think some pictures that would win some awards, but I'm just hoping we could have a little more time like these other people. Yeah, let's not rush to any judgment like that, because I'm from Roseburg, born and raised here. And I'm maybe 1 year younger than you are, Jerry. I still have my.
Oh, no, that's not, get personal.
No, sorry.
Yeah, wait a minute.
But I really like this park up there and the wildlife. I used to see nutria swimming across that pond. They're like swamp rats or something, but yeah, we could, there's money out there. Yeah, we could sell it and get a pile of cash. There's millions of dollars out there. I'm sure there's people that wanna buy it and develop it, like on the east side, that new Shell station and store. And I used to eat at the Curtin Cafe, used to use the post office there. But now it's all history, but it's time for redevelopment, but let's make some good positive changes, maybe a visitor center. I like that idea.
Good
Okay,
idea.
thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Bob. Well done, well done.
Thank you.
2 to go. What?
Hey, man,
Sorry, what'd you say?
I was talking to myself.
Oh, good. Bill. Miller?
You good, Bill?
Okay, Bill, thank you. M.A. Hanson? Tony, are you sticking around? Okay. Yeah, good.
Well, I have to follow him, I don't know. But I think I'm coming from a different direction. I just wanna give you a little, something to think about. I have lived in almost every state in the union. I have lived overseas in many, many countries. I finally, and that was about 40 years of my life. 40 years ago, I found this area and nobody's getting me out of it. Not even you guys, because I used to come and battle a bit. But, and I've been on the Park Advisory Board, for another park. And boy, was that something. Anyhow, I do have a degree in planning, which most people who know me don't know that, but I do. But that's not exactly where I went with my profession. I'm an international programmer. Anyway, I have never seen such a area that has such beautiful parks and the ability to have more beautiful parks and bring some people, I've lived all over the world. This area is known all over the world, especially our rivers. Why aren't we doing tourism? Don't keep taking our parks away. We can't bring tourism in. It's an $8 billion a year. I'm also an accountant. It's an $8 billion a year income for tourism, which has been figured many times, and it's probably more than that. But I've never seen an area that has constantly picked on their parks. And why on earth did this park ever get in the position that it's in, that it, it takes all this money to fix it up? And there are people out here, I would volunteer to go and spend a lot of my time making sure our parks are taken care of. I've got some money I would put into it. I think there's a lot more people like me around. We've never been asked. Every time I have anything to do with the parks here, it seems, is we're trying to save them. Why should we be trying to save our parks? And I think I could go on and on, but I probably won't. Thank you.
Thanks, MA.
Thank you.
Okay, County Land Director, Tony Page is here. Tony, do you want to say something?
Sure.
Did I say that right? County Land Director?
Yep, that's right.
Couldn't remember, I haven't seen you for so long.
Good morning, Parks Department Advisory Committee and general public. Tony Page, Land Director. I've been a real estate appraiser since 1995 and a real estate agent broker and then an appraiser since 2001. So we bought this property in 1962 for $26,000. There's no deed restrictions. We've put in hundreds of thousands of dollars into this property to maintain it through the years. And it's been one thing after another with septic and water and more expenses. And all the time that I've been here since 2001, this park has never made money. It's been an outlier for years, and it's been liquidating into private hands has always been a topic of conversation between, Parks Department directors in the past, since I've been here for 24 years. So I was involved in helping with the zone change, and that was advertised. And we did, it took, sent out to all the neighbors. We had people here in opposition and in support. And then there was an appeal period from several weeks. I believe it was 4 or 5 weeks. And they could have appealed, and there was people talking about it, but they didn't follow through with that. So there was public input in this zone change. So it was a restrictive PR zone, public reserve, which was geared towards, public use, governmental use. And the zone now is CRE, which is rural commercial, which has a much more liberal zone, and you can do a lot more with it. And increasing tourism here is kind of the idea of potentially selling this property to make it more of a draw and to increase the values of Curtin. So an example, hypothetical things that someone could do here is permanent RV spots, or to help the housing crisis, they could have craft store, Saturday markets, farmers markets, small general store, feed store. Spaces allowed for food trucks, occasionally live band, foods or art festivals could happen here, wine tasting. The possibilities are virtually limitless with an entrepreneur who has some vision and some time and capital and some motivation to make this thing work. And I don't think it being so far out and as many parks as we have, that we have the capability to really make this park a draw for that area and to benefit the citizens there. So there's good income potential here for a new owner who wants to be creative for the tourism destination. I think the local community would benefit with basic shopping needs, not have to drive so far. Surrounding business owners could benefit in the long term, having this parcel open for more options, more people staying here. It's just it's a good thing to get it into private hands. So the current configuration of RV spots, it's not self-sufficient, high vacancy rate, It's costly to maintain. Being so far from Roseburg is difficult. The length of stays are limiting on how long people can stay, and the main thing is a real estate appraiser is its highest and best use. And highest and best use kind of determines what you do with a property. The 4 criteria for highest and best use are legally permissible, physically possible, financially feasible, and maximally productive or profitability is number 4, which its current use does not fit in number 4. It's not maximally productive, and it's not profitable. So clearly, this did not pass the test of highest and best use, its current use. In private hands, I believe it could pass that test though. So the park has proven itself over 30 years that it's not self-sufficient financially and is not a tourist destination of any sort at this time. It's mainly used for a quick pull-off. However, I believe wholeheartedly with the right vision, this 22-acre parcel can benefit the whole community by putting this property into private hands. So as a realtor and appraiser for 24 years, I believe that this community in its entirety would be benefited by a creative entrepreneur that has vision, time, money, resources, and wants to craft and mold this thing into something that's really beneficial for the community. I think property values will go up there. I think that the commercial property will start to develop. I think it needs something. It needs a breath of fresh air. I think that's exactly what would happen by selling this to an entrepreneur with some vision. So.
Thank you very much, Tony, appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Tony.
Thank you.
Job well done too, by the way. Okay, that concludes what?
We have a guy, Steve, online, and is Mark Shore? Did he text you some comments he wanted you to share? It's Mark Shore?
Yeah, Steve did, yes.
He didn't,
Do
he
you wanna,
passed.
do you wanna get up and speak on his behalf?
Well, you know, he said stuff to me that I really,
I'm just trying to honor getting his, I'm just trying to provide Steve's input to the
yeah,
board.
no, Steve
And he
did
said
call
he
me
was
this
texting
morning
you.
and talked to me about that. He sent in a letter and that he did give me his permission to use his name as an proposal to the zone change. And
Is it Steve or Steve to share?
Steve Teixeira.
oh, I'm sorry, Steve Toucher.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Yes, Steve is a very good friend of mine and he's been working diligently on the financial ends of things here. And he's asked for reports on how much money has been being brought in the last decade or more and whatnot. And so I think that you guys really need to take a real strong look at what Steve is proposing. He owns Umpqua Financial, CPA outfit in Roseburg here, and very knowledgeable guy. And you guys really should take a really close look at what he's saying, and please give us more time to make the decision to.
Appreciate that. That's good. I will say for the record that I have, and I believe the board has, letters from Samantha Duncan. What's the other one?
Samantha Duncan,
Samantha Duncan.
Ashley Shaw sent something in, I believe.
Dan Daniels. And also,
Steve Marshall,
Cindy Hawes. So we got those letters. I've read them.
Yes.
Sarah County.
Okay, good move.
Okay, thank you guys, man.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay. Board, open for comments here.
I hear you, and I'm data driven, but I also think that there are things beyond data that are important to our community and keeping us together and healthier. I keep going back to the passion that you guys have exuded, and I guess I keep going back to what would it hurt to give them a little bit more time. With our surplus of our current budget right now, I don't see any negative and listening to the community and giving them a little bit more time. That being said, the community would have to come with solutions that are gonna bring funding, not us to you guys, the community, right? I just know that I would feel better tabling the sale until maybe the beginning of next year, February of next year, to give them the opportunity to come forward with some potential revenue solutions. But to be clear, without a very detailed plan on how that would occur, I wouldn't continue wavering and holding off. That's
Good.
where I'm coming from. When I look at the dedication, I went there the other day, it is so beautiful. You know, the dedication to the picnic shelter, Tom Myers, the dedication to George Churchill, people that have served, one served 14 years on the park board, dedicated, you know, and invested many years in that park, and I think the least we could do is a little bit more time.
Other comments? Great, thank you for that. Other comments, board?
Yeah, I come up with a little different view. I see the sale of this park as being an opportunity for Curtin. I think the land, Tony, I think your name was, the ideas that he came up with, putting an RV park in there, could be the golf course, could be, there's all kinds of things. I have an entrepreneur mind, and no, I have no ability to buy the park. I don't have any of that kind of money. I can't write a check, but I see it as an opportunity for Curtin to grow, to look better. I deliver to those stores up there. I mean, those stores are all closed now because they're not getting anybody, nobody drives by them. Other than the people that go to they don't stop. They just go right to, they use it and they go to the coast. If we got people to stop there because we had a reason, you could also have a new Curtin store. I know there's one right across the way, but there's not one on the southbound side. I think that burnout building would be tore down if somebody came in and actually put what they wanted and had a vision to make that look good. So I see it as an opportunity for Curtin, is what I see it as. I don't see it as you're losing anything, I see it as a gain. I see it also, what the county would get from selling it, the money could go back into other parks that would be a gain for that. If you go around the area, there's a lot of parks that are getting a lot of investment in them. I know it isn't in Curtin, I understand that, it's also not where I live. I have to drive to it if I wanna go see it. So that's where I come from, I see it as a positive thing for Curtin.
Thank you.
And much like some of the folks who talked about history, I was born and raised here. My dad drove log truck, I've eaten breakfast as a little guy at the cafe there that's all burned out. I worked for a local power utility, that building burned down because they were stealing power for the umpteenth millionth time. There's a reason, the problem we have as a parks department is it's not in our purview to say, hey, let's buy that burned out shell and tear it down to make the park look better. That's a little outside of our scope. Hey, can we buy the Stardust Motel and plow it over and pave it because it's an eyesore and it's, hurting Curtin? And maybe the place next to it, we're not in that business. So I understand exactly what you're saying. I would love to see eyesore properties go away too. But somebody owns it, that's their property, and they can do, to whatever the law allows, they can do what they want with their property. But it's outside of the Parks Department purview. And I'm with, we've gone through this before and, it does frustrate me when we volunteer for all this. None of us get paid for this. We all have day jobs. And, every meeting, when something doesn't go someone's way, there's always some deep, dark master plan. And I'll tell you, anybody who knows me knows I'm not that deep. I don't do secrets. Everybody knows what I'm about and what I have to say and what I think almost immediately because it's all over my big ugly face. So I think that going through this, and I understand the wanting to wait, but we've been through this with the park in Green. I grew up on that park. My grandmother's house was one door down. I spent literally probably 10 years of my life inside that park. I didn't want to see the park go, but you get to a point where that park was more of a homeland for drug dealers than it was for kids to go to the park. I lived in Green. I couldn't let my kids go to that park, So, everybody, and another thing, it is kind of frustrating too, that the times we get interaction or when people get excited about a park is generally when it comes to the awareness like this. We've come to a point where it's not making any money, it's degraded. We have to think about the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few and make a tough decision. Then everybody all of a sudden wants to spring into action, they have all these ideas. You can do that now, to any park you want. There's nothing stopping it. So it's not something we, like to do. I don't lay awake at night going, which park can I sell next? we don't do that.
Gina, say something.
Yeah, I wanted to first thank everybody for coming. I know me personally, the last thing I wanna do during the middle of the week is come to a meeting where, you know, there's gonna be contention about issues. I wrote down a lot of stuff on the policies and procedures and heard a lot about people wanting to be notified ahead of time or a broader way to be notified, and I think those are all things that we need to talk about and to take into consideration, because it sounds pretty universal. I think that it takes a long time for a park to get to this condition, and it would also take a really long time to get it back to a workable condition, and I don't think that the state, where things are right now, we can afford to wait and take the time to do that. I've worked in the North Douglas area, been through there a lot, and I think the opportunity to see something improve the community up there is one that we can't pass that up. I don't like to see parks close either. I live in a community where we don't have a park, and I can understand the importance of having that space and area. But I think for me, it really comes down to we can't afford to continue to have lost revenue, and I know that the money isn't there to put into all the repairs.
Thank you. I guess my closing remark would be that I was involved, kind of led the charge when we had an old dilapidated movie, outdoor movie screen, park, if you will, at Sutherland, it was called the Cloverleaf. And the Groff family got a hold of me and said, what are we gonna do with it? Well, if you go by Sutherland now and you look over there, you'll see a beautiful RV park that's doing wonderful things. So there are people out there that would jump on doing something to this. I'm just throwing that out as a thought. Investors would jump on it, and what I would say, given what this board decides, is that all the passion I've heard today, all the good points I've heard today, all the pluses I've heard today, and the negatives too, need to be channeled either to the commissioners, or if they vote the other way and approve of the director's request, then channeled to an investor, and I'll be glad to help you do that. I'll personally step out, help you do that. So, I don't think there's anything.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
You guys are the Parks Advisory Board, and something that's very unclear in my mind is how nearly, over $5 million, almost $6 million, have been channeled to the Umpqua Dunes, a park that isn't even mentioned in the master plan.
Revenue.
I will tell you that, no, I'm step up on this one, I won't duck that one.
You guys are the advisory board, and I
It was-
haven't been involved with you, and so I don't know what the history is since 2018.
It came through this board,
Yeah.
and I stood up almost in the board and say, take that property, had been on the market for a whole year. Now, this is very important, I'm glad you asked that. It was on the market for sale for a year, so this could be tested the same way. This could be tested the same way. You brought up a great point. This could go on the market, and it would, just same way. That park was tested for a year. The county got it at 40 cents on a dollar. And we gave everybody in the neighborhood a chance to buy it. They turned it down. County got it. You know how much money that's making? The Parks Department went from paying fees, to park your car, drawn from the general fund. The Park Department makes money this year, makes money. It's in the green. It doesn't draw from the general fund. It was the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest move the county commissioners could have made. Probably one of the best moves any of them have made. And yeah, I'll take that one, because I went to the county commissioner and said, if you let this go, you're making a big mistake. I'm glad they did.
I just follow up just one statement about that, and that is that when the county did decide to purchase the park in 2018, I was involved with the public meetings, and I asked Rocky Houston, the parks director, said, how much is it gonna cost? He goes, we don't know. It's gonna, we'll tell you in February or March of 2019. And before I finish, he never did get back to me on that.
I don't know
And
who
what I
Rocky
did
is.
is I woke up at 3:15 this morning. I said, I've got to go back through all the park meeting minutes that you guys have put out in the Board of Commissioner meetings to add up what the I&E engineering contract was for doing the redevelopment plan, what the
Hang on
phase
now.
one, what the phase two, and what
Hang
the
on,
phase
I gotta stop you.
And I came
I
up
don't-
with $5,484,214.
I asked about being
I also
alive.
watched a video that Commissioner Kress presented on the county
Joe,
page.
Joe,
showing that the
Joe,
park
we're
is
cutting you off.
$300,000
Joe,
in
you don't have the
deficit.
No,
floor.
don't do that.
That
No.
money could have been used for Pass
Well,
Creek.
it
is
could have
my
been used
bottom
for
line.
lots of things, times, places, and events of the future.
Ask one question, one, please.
I can't.
Thank you.
I
Who
can't.
was the estimator that estimated the cost on the repairs to the park? I was a contractor for nearly 50 years. Who was the estimator that brought up those numbers to estimate the cost of fixing the park?
We don't know, I wasn't even
Who would
here.
know? My barber?
Rocky
Okay,
Houston.
all right, so
I
the
mean,
board,
it's off topic.
board has in front of it, a request, a proposal to, our director wants to sell the park. Now, we've discussed it, I think, happy with it, the discussion, I'm happy with the discussion I've heard out here, I've learned a lot. So I guess where we're at is either we vote to, well, not there yet, we gotta get a motion and second. If we vote to either approve or disapprove, I don't think we need to get into, give them more time. All we need to do is if you want, let's put it this way, if you want to give more time to this issue, you will vote against the approval. It'll be simple. Then we'll go with more time. If you don't want to, and you're content with what you've heard, and you wanna endorse or support, vote in favor of the proposal, then you will say yay. So that's all, it's very simple, either you say yay or nay, and nay means you're giving it more time. Am I clear on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, are we at any more discussion? Okay, by roll call, by the new state law, you have to say your name when you vote. Okay,
Hold on, I think we need a motion first.
yeah, I do need a motion
And a
first, I'm
second.
sorry. So the motion is, all right, what I need a motion for is whether the board supports the sale of Parks Creek Park. Pass Creek Park, get it right, Pass Creek Park.
I'll make a motion to authorize the sale of Pass Creek Park.
I'll second the motion.
Now we got a motion and a second. Now we're getting into further discussion.
Keep in mind, just because the Parks Department doesn't ultimately sell the park. We don't sell the park.
You make a
We
recommendation.
make a
to the
recommendation.
commissioners.
I was trying to be clear on that. We're recommending this to the Board of Commissioners. That's all we do. We do a recommendation. He's requested it. We're gonna recommend it, yes or no, yea or nay. I got a motion and a second, so I got one. All right, Gina,
Yay.
yay? Phil,
Yay.
Kavana,
Nay.
Troy?
Yay.
Greg's not here. 3-1, I guess I don't have to vote then. So we're gonna recommend or support your sale. Vote in favor of the selling of the park. We're on time. I thank everybody. I know it's tough, but thank everybody. Meeting's adjourned.